Hi, welcome to today's video on reasonable and necessary. We get a lot of feedback that this process can be quite confusing, and we've put this resource together to assist you to understand the process that goes into determining reasonable and necessary supports.
It's important to remember that these criteria, in addition to other legislation, are used to help NDIA delegates make decisions. These examples are not based on real people's stories and have been put together to show the thought process in regards to reasonable and necessary decision-making. Each individual circumstance will require an individual decision based on the evidence and information provided to the delegate at the time of requesting the support. If you have questions about a decision, you can always talk to your LAC or the NDIS directly.
Reasonable and necessary is the criteria used by the National Disability Insurance Agency to determine that supports can be funded for someone with a disability. This is to ensure that the NDIS remains available to all who need it, and that people with a disability who have an NDIS plan receive supports that are fair and can objectively demonstrate that they meet individual needs. The supports that a person might receive must meet the 6 reasonable and necessary criteria and be related to their disability.
1. The support will assist you to pursue your goals in your plan. 2. The support will assist you to undertake activities to facilitate your social and economic participation.
This means the support will help you to undertake activities by reducing the disability-related barriers that prevent you from participating in things such as social outings, recreation, work and study.
3. The support represents value for money in that the costs of the support are reasonable relative to both the benefits achieved and the cost of alternative supports. 4. The support will be or is likely to be effective and beneficial for you, having regard to current good practice.
This means we consider if there is evidence the support works for someone with similar disability support needs. We won't need an expert report for every support, as we can often rely on other information or evidence. For example, we may have information already about whether the support is widely accepted to suit someone with your disability support needs. We also consider your lived experience.
5. The funding of the support takes account of what is reasonable to expect families, carers, informal networks, and the community to provide. 6. The support is most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS.
And is not more appropriately funded or provided through other general systems of service delivery or support services offered by a person, agency or body, for example, a state or territory statutory scheme. Systems of service delivery or support services offered as part of a universal service obligation, for example, the health or education system. Let's take a look at how the reasonable and necessary criteria is applied to a few different examples.
Can I purchase a wheelchair?
Yes, if a wheelchair is something needed as a direct result of your disability and an assessment and recommendations have been made by an appropriately qualified occupational therapist. These two circumstances do not meet reasonable and necessary on their own. The NDIA must be able to see that the following criteria has also been met.
Will the support assist the person to achieve their goals, objectives, and aspirations?
Yes, a wheelchair would help support someone who does not have use of their legs to achieve their goals.
Will the support assist the person to undertake activities of social and economic participation?
Yes, a wheelchair would likely help this person participate in their community. If they didn't have the wheelchair, they would probably have significant difficulties getting out of the house.
Does the support represent value for money?
Assuming that the wheelchair has reasonable inclusions and that they are not more expensive than comparable supports, then yes, a wheelchair would represent value for money. Having access to a wheelchair would also mean that the individual would be able to be more independent, and therefore increasing social and economic participation.
Is the support effective and beneficial, having regard to current good practice?
Yes, Provision of a wheelchair is often considered good practice for someone with mobility impairments. This would need to be evidenced in the assessment from the occupational therapist.
Does the funding of the support take into account what is reasonable to expect others to provide?
Yes, without this support, this person would rely on other people physically carrying them from place to place or using unsafe methods, and this is not reasonable to expect of others.
Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS?
Yes, in this example, provision of disability-specific equipment is not covered by other government-funded supports. For example, if your disability is not permanent, supports like a wheelchair may be provided by the Department of Health.
Approved.
Let's run through another example. Just like in the previous example, we need to consider the reasonable and necessary criteria. Every question must be answered with a yes in order to meet the criteria. If one is not answered with a yes, this will not meet the reasonable and necessary criteria. Let's take a look at how this works.
Can I get childcare or in-home support for my child with a disability?
Any parent with a child requires childcare at times. If you're eligible, the government already provides subsidies and supports unrelated to the NDIS that may contribute towards the cost of childcare. In-home support is regarded as parental responsibility. This is not usually covered by the NDIS, unless there is evidence that your child's disability requires support beyond what a parent could reasonably be expected to provide. For example, most young children will need supervision and support to attend activities such as football training, to make meals, and to complete their personal care. We would need to demonstrate why the support is required. Have skill-building strategies been put in place to help decrease the need for in-home care? Have all government supports been accessed? As you can see, this support does not meet the following reasonable and necessary criteria.
Does the support represent value for money? No. Is the support effective and beneficial having regard to current good practice?
No, this support does not meet good practice. It is important to explore capacity building options to help the child build skills so that they may become more independent, reducing the requirement for in-home or childcare supports.
Does the funding of the support take into account what is reasonable to expect others to provide?
No, this support does not take into consideration what is reasonable to expect others to provide. Any parent with a child requires childcare sometimes. This is a parental support and is not covered by the NDIS.
Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS?
No, assistance with childcare fees may be accessed via Services Australia. Therefore, this support is not most appropriately provided by the NDIS.
Can I use my funding to pay for an alternative therapy or treatment, for example, herbal remedies?
The NDIS can fund supports that are considered likely to be beneficial. If there is not enough scientific evidence that the support will be beneficial, the NDIS will not fund the support and will recommend using best practice options instead. Let's look at where this support will not meet the criteria.
Is the support effective and beneficial having regard to current good practice? No, not without proper scientific evidence. Can I use NDIS funding to receive support in helping me self-manage my NDIS plan?
Yes, NDIS funding is designed to pay for supports to assist you to do things that you can't do yourself due to your disability. If you don't have the capacity to understand how to self-manage your supports straight away, the NDIS may pay for skill-building supports to help you learn to do this. The NDIS may also pay for support to assist you to self-manage, such as an accountant, providing that this support meets the reasonable and necessary criteria.
Will the support assist the person to achieve their goals, objectives, and aspirations?
Yes, this will enable you to build your skills in order to self-direct and manage your plan.
Will the support assist the person to undertake activities of social and economic participation?
Yes, this support will increase your skills in order to participate in all areas of your life.
Does the support represent value for money?
Yes, By building skills in self-management, you may no longer require supports in the future in order to manage your plan.
Is the support effective and beneficial, having regard to current good practice?
Yes, this support enables you to have choice and control and increase your social and economic participation, and is therefore best practice.
Does the funding of the support take into account what is reasonable to expect others to provide?
Yes, this is a specialist administrative task directly relating to your disability, and it will increase your independence.
Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS?
Yes, this support directly relates to your disability, and there are no other government or community funded supports that can provide this service.
Approved. I can't lodge my tax return because of my disability. Can my supports pay for a bookkeeper?
There are free services that already exist to help people do their taxes. These services are normally run by local councils and other community organisations. It's recommended that you explore these services first.
Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS? No.
This support is not most appropriately funded by the NDIS, therefore it will not meet the criteria.
Not approved. I found a job at my local retailer. Can I have support to attend my job?
If you have a goal around employment and you require support for your daily activities, such as personal care on the job, or support to learn new skills and undertake your employment, you could be eligible for NDIS employment supports. Here it is important to ensure that you utilise both other government supports and NDIS funded supports appropriately. For example, you may receive support from a Disability Employment Service, DES, to look for and keep a job. But you may also require NDIS funded supports at the same time, such as for personal care at work. This is an example of the importance of understanding what each government department is responsible to fund.
Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS? Some of it is. Not approved.
If you require any clarification, talk to a local area coordinator for the best option for you.
My occupational therapist is recommending a trampoline to help my child to increase their strength and coordination. Can the NDIS pay for this?
Play equipment is typically considered parental responsibility because it is something that would likely benefit any child with or without a disability. Taking this into consideration, this example does not meet the following criteria.
Does the funding of the support take into account what is reasonable to expect others to provide? No. Not approved. Can I fund tutoring for my child?
Any additional tutoring outside of school would be the responsibility of all parents regardless of whether their child has a disability or not. As you can see, this example does not meet the following criteria.
Does the funding of the support take into account what is reasonable to expect others to provide? No. Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS? No. Not approved.
Education supports are the responsibility of the Department of Education. It's important to work with your child's school to identify the best learning opportunities for your child. You may be able to use your NDIS funding to access capacity building supports to help address some of the challenges that might be preventing your child from engaging at school, such as communication skills or behaviour regulation skills. However, all educational institutions are obligated to provide the same educational opportunities to all children, with or without disability.
My disability affects my memory, and I want to become more independent with my morning routine, but I have trouble remembering what steps to take. My therapist has recommended an app for my phone to help me plan and remember the steps. Can the NDIS fund this support?
Yes. If you have goals around increasing independence in daily routines and your disability impacts your planning or processing, this support would be related to your disability and assist you to achieve your goals. Having this app would increase your ability to get ready independently in the morning and your skills to participate in social and economic activities. This support would also represent value for money compared to the cost of having a face-to-face support. As you are wanting to become more independent, this is typically not a support that family and friends would provide, and not provided by another government department.
Will the NDIS pay for my holiday travel expenses?
Going on a holiday is something that every Australian looks forward to. Not everyone can afford to go on a holiday, and it all comes down to cost. The NDIS can't fund the holiday itself and will not pay for travel expenses such as hotels, meals, and airfares. But it could fund the support needed to make sure you can go on the holiday. This support might include support workers to help you complete personal care, maintain safety when you're out and about, or perhaps equipment to help you participate in holiday activities. As you can see, this example does not meet the following criteria.
Does the funding of the support take into account what is reasonable to expect others to provide? No. Is the support most appropriately funded or provided through the NDIS? No. Not approved. I want to go to the pub for a few drinks. Can I have support to do this?
It is your choice what leisure and social activities you enjoy doing, and it is your right to be supported. This may actually reduce funded supports required in the long term. For example, through getting out and about in your community, your friend network grows, and you get to know the staff at the local pub. Those friends and the staff get to know you and can assist with some of the things that you require support with, therefore reducing the need for funded supports.
Approved.
As you can see, there are multiple considerations that must be made for each support. You can use the process we have followed today to assist you to understand the steps to determining reasonable and necessary, and put this into practice when thinking about supports you may request. Remember, for a support to be determined reasonable and necessary by the NDIA, you must be able to answer yes to all of the questions. As you can see, it can be very individualised. You can always have a conversation with the NDIS or an LAC to discuss your individual circumstances.